Alright, and we are live. Hi everybody, welcome to SNR Uncut with Tbone. Started a little late, so my apologies. These our bartend Saturdays getting up and it'd just be a lot. But we here on episode 3, and today we are going to be talking about childhood trauma, how it affects adult relationships. So y'all know I be wanting to know like what I'm talking about so I can be as accurate as possible. So I think that I want to first start off with identifying what trauma is. So trauma is defined as going through very stressful, frightening, or distressful events. So I think that at the end of the day, it's safe to say that everybody in some shape, fashion, or form have experienced trauma. Different kinds of trauma. Me being Tbone, I can say that a lot of my trauma was experienced throughout my childhood. May not have all been directly something that I went through, but maybe it was a lot of things that I witnessed growing up. So if y'all don't know, I did grow up. I'm from down the way, so I grew up in the projects, and I can say that even though King Kennedy projects, let me put that out there. So I can say that even though my grandma did not allow us to go outside. Like my brothers, them different. They different. But as far as like me and my sister, we really wasn't allowed to go outside. But we witnessed so many different things by living down in the projects. People getting shot in front of our doorstep, drive-bys, fights. Like it was just it was not a good place to grow up. It conditioned your mind. Then shortly after that, I will say that a big part of my childhood trauma that I feel like affects my adult relationship is pause. So let's rewind. Gotta get some back information because you guys don't know me personally. You don't know my story. So I have to give you a glimpse of me. This is gonna be nice. So growing up, I am the oldest of 7. My grandmother raised us. I did not have a childhood. I basically raised all my siblings. My grandma did not allow us to go outside. My grandma did not allow us to go anywhere. My grandma did not allow us to do anything. Friends did not come over. We did not go over friends' houses. Nobody was like, my friends couldn't call my house. I remember times my grandma used to be like, she'd answer the phone and she'd be like, Latanya not here, and she'll hang up. But my grandma also has always been like, she likes nice things, so we've never went without. If y'all know me, y'all know that I love wearing heels. I've worn heels all of my life, honestly. So I stayed with the latest heels. We stayed with our hair done. I always commend my grandmother. I started playing the violin in the 4th grade. I auditioned for the Cleveland School of Arts, and that's the school that I went to from the 6th to the 12th. So I always applaud her for that. So we didn't really go to Cleveland public schools. We went to Cleveland School of Arts, me and my younger sister who played the cello. So I just want to throw that out there, like, so I really didn't have a childhood. I raised my siblings. I was mom. And I think to this day, that's why a lot of my siblings, like, still call me, still rely on me. Like, I'm more than just, like, their older sister. Like, they call, they know I'm about to do whatever. I'm coming because those are my babies, like, literally. That was deep. But on the flip side of that, my grandmother we were more so, I feel like, mentally abused. My grandma is, and I love her to death. And I, as an adult, I have accepted that everybody has their own demons. Everybody has their own thing that they're fighting. So I never blamed her as I became an adult. Now, as a child, it was totally different. But as an adult, I forgave her, and I've realized that she had a terrible childhood and a terrible upbringing, and she experienced things in her life. My grandma had shot my granddad and went and sat in the woods and waited for the police. So she has her own demons and things that she was trying to deal with while raising her kids, and then turning around and raising her grandkids. But that does not take away from the fact that growing up, it was a very emotional abuse household. Like I said, we had everything material, everything we needed. That our house was beautiful, even in the project, like completely beautiful. To the point, like, yo, I kid you not. So I work with the Children's Department of Family and Services, and one of my supervisors is the caseworker that handled my case when I was a child. And I asked her, like, what made y'all give us to my grandma? And she was just like, her first exact words were, your grandmother's house was impeccable. Like, impeccable. To this day, my grandma's house looked like a castle. But inside of all that beauty, it's a lot of mental, a lot of dysfunction, and self-hating. I feel like remorse, and I think that unfortunately got taken out on us, and it shaped me into the woman that I was. I'm not gonna say I became, because I've definitely identified some of those things and changed it, which is why this episode I feel like is so important and so deep, because we don't realize how our childhood trauma really affects us as an adults in the relationships that we get in. So growing up, my grandma did not have a man. We did everything. Like, I was moving china cabinets, putting together bedroom sets. So as I grew up, I really had that mindset of, I don't need a man, literally for nothing. I'm actually really blessed to be able to see something and be able to do it. So I've literally, my grandma instilled that alpha female. Like, my grandma, like, she, despite her flaws and her craziness, she's an alpha female. And we came to Cleveland from New York in 1996. And from 1996, I want to say I've seen my grandma maybe with one guy for a short amount of time. And then, other than that, for the rest of my life, to 2023, I've never seen my grandma with a man, which could possibly be why she is so upset. So that's I'm so sorry, because I know y'all hear my kids downstairs and they are really loud. So my apologies. But with that being said, I do want to take in consideration. I'm sorry, that just really lost my train of thought. Because he's really crying. Oh man, where was I at? So she is still the alpha female. So when I got married, it was a lot of non-submission. I did not submit. I did not know how to submit, because I had always been like the leader. Like, I moved out when I was 18. I was on my own. I worked. I did everything. Like, I provided for myself. So I really didn't know how to submit. And so that played a lot in the rockiness in the beginning of my marriage, to where, it was some infidelity involved. We did, come back together after his infidelity. We got marriage counseling. And I think that counseling is great. I think it's so needed. We as African Americans, we don't like to talk to people. And then, honestly, sometimes the people that we talk to, they're not telling us the things that we need to hear. And sometimes their vision is not clear. So if their vision is not clear and they're like way clouded with emotional or a connectional tie to me, they can't really give me what I need. So I do feel like in the African American community that we definitely should utilize talking to someone as like a counselor, not Big Mama or our best friend. Even though like I'm very blessed to have friends that are completely honest with me, but even in that aspect, I know that my friends love me. They love me. So in a certain way, they're not going to. They're still going to side with me. Right, wrong, or indifferent. They're going to tell me I'm wrong, but they are still also going to side with me. Whereas when you talking to a counselor, they dissect things. They make you think of things that you didn't think of, because they're that person from the outside now stepping inside. So they're able to see things differently. And I think that is very vital. I think that helps a lot of people. So I guess for my childhood trauma, I had a disconnect. Because I grew up with the emotional abuse, I really had the mindset of good things don't happen to me, or good things won't last long. And I'm not even gonna say it because I don't deserve them, because honestly, I'm not lying, y'all. Since a kid, I've always been that good child. Like, if you know me in real life, you know, like, I am like an emotional being. I love hard. I'm giving. Like, if I'm loyal. Like, I live by those principles. Even when people have done me wrong, like, I still found it in my heart to forgive them, to pray for them, and to just move on, you know. And so it really wasn't the mindset of, oh, I don't deserve good things because I'm undeserving of them. It was more so if that's just the mindset that I have. Like, when I got married, I was just like, oh, this is not going to last. Then when the first incident happened, I was like, oh. And then, you know, you have to realize, like, what you think, what you speak those things into your life. If you think negative, like nothing's good's going to happen and nothing's good going to last, eventually you're going to self-sabotage yourself. And that's what I do a lot of times, what I used to do. A lot of times with my adult relationships, when it comes to not just even like men and female, like my man relationships or that type of relationship, but even with my friendships who I associate myself with, when you admit those things, that's what you attract. So if you admitting the self-doubt, the negativity, then that's exactly what you're going to attract into your life. And that is so true, because after I've realized that and I've really changed the way I have thought and how I look at life, I've literally came in contact with people who are just positive, people who are not even just educated as with degrees, but like they're different than what I used to attract. And I think that plays a big part in, because like I said, I realized what my trauma was. And when you realize what your trauma was and you step back and you take the time to address the trauma, because I feel like at the end of the day, a lot of us will be like, oh yeah, I got trauma. Oh yeah, I experienced this. I've witnessed this. But unfortunately, all of us don't take the healthy approach into dealing with it. Unfortunately, a lot of people resort to drugs. They want to numb the pain. They pop in perk. They smoking weed. They drinking alcohol. And at the end of the day, that may numb it temporarily, but when you come back down from that high, the pain of the trauma that you experience is still going to be there. And it's still going to dictate how you look at life, how you move, and the decisions ultimately that you make. So, like I said, my trauma was just, the mental abuse with my grandmother. And then, like I said, just witnessing things at a young age. Not even just as a young, in the projects per se. Even once I had moved out, I remember this was 2000. I had my daughter in 2009 in November. I want to say New Year's Eve. We decided to have a house party when we stayed on Kinsman. Had a house party. I'm always extra, so I'm making sure like the people that are there we know. So everybody know, like, don't bring no guns, nothing like that. Unfortunately, my sisters and them was not. They was intoxicated, and they were aware that one of the guys had brought a gun in the house. Of course, my brother was there with his friends, and if y'all know my brother, and this is his friend Carlos, y'all know, like, they're extra, like, the jury, if y'all know my brother though, y'all know my brother though. And something happened, and next thing I know, the dude upped. Oh my God, y'all, it was a big gun. It was a really big gun. He upped the gun and he started shooting in the house. I don't know if he was shooting at my brother or at my brother's friends, Carlos, because like they were literally right behind me. But when I tell y'all, like, I felt the bullet breeze through my face. No lie. And like, so thank God that like nobody got injured, nobody got hurt. My brother had ran out the house. The dude, he ran. But like when I was just looking at the holes that was like in my wall and my couch, they were just so big. And I'm not even gonna say they ran, because I think like they went outside, and then some friends of my brothers from the projects had pulled up and heard the gunshots, and then they ran outside, and then the dude that was from the hood started shooting at. It was a lot. It was a lot. And I'm not even gonna lie to y'all. The dudes that we knew that the dude was with, like, they were calling us apologizing, because I don't resort to violence, but I got the family that will, so it's like a lot of apologies going on or whatever. But then even shortly after that, like 2 weeks after that, maybe not even 2 weeks, a week after, I was outside sitting in the car with some guy I had met. And I remember the car driving past us and pulling into the store. And I didn't think to, like, be mindful of the car. So as we sit in the car, you know, we talking, chopping it. I did not peep the car pull out the store and drive past us. No, I did. I peeped that. I didn't peep it when it stopped. So it drove past us and then it stopped. A guy hopped out. He ran up to the window. Was like, had his gun out. Told us to get out the car. Thank God that, I don't know if this happens a lot to this man, but he never took the car out of drive. So he was able to, like, skirt off. But as he skirted off, like, they were, like, start shooting at the back of the car with us in there. And I just remember, like, falling down underneath the glove box. Like, just calling out God, like, calling out his name, because I was just so scared. And my sister called me because she was in the house with my daughter. And, you know, seeing what was going on or whatever. But, like, those are traumas. Those are traumas that shape your life. After that, I was afraid to be by myself alone in the house. I had to sleep with all the lights on. It took me a long, long time to not be afraid to be around guns. With that trauma that I experienced, it then shaped me into looking at men who could be protectors. So do y'all see how this, like, do you see how it's connecting? Like, that trauma in turn made me change my view of who I wanted to attract. I wanted a protector. Meaning that, like, I don't know if y'all remember from episode 2, when I was just saying how when I hug a man, how do I feel that protection, that strength, and that embrace when he gives it to me. That's exactly what I mean. Like, because I experienced those traumas, I now feel like I needed a strong man. I needed someone who I know would be able to protect me, protect my family, and protect our home. And that's a positive that I will not change about my experience, that trauma. I won't change that. I realized that even with the trauma, I'm a strong woman, so I desire a strong man. I will not take away the fact that I am an alpha female, but I am embracing more of my feminine side, because I do realize you do have to step back and let a man be a man and let a man lead. So I think that I have to take that survival instinct out, which I think that even though we didn't come outside in the projects, you automatically get it when you live in those type of neighborhoods or in those type of environments. You automatically get a survival mode. Like, at the end of the day, you know how to survive. And I think that I diminish it just a little bit because, like I say, I do want someone to come in and to lead and be able to provide. But on the flip side, if it's ever a time where it's just me and my kids, I'm gonna get it done, and it ain't gonna be no if, ands, or buts about it. Just thinking about those things like really got me emotional, because you just really never know what someone has been through. And you never know someone's story. Oh, I'm about to cry. Like, you never know someone's story. And I think that the stuff that we go through, it's not really for us. Like, it's for us to help somebody else. And I just think that's a really good thing. But, back to trauma in relationships. So, as I was saying, I just feel like that we as adults, especially with the African American community, and especially with mental health being as chaotic and rising as it is now, that we have to be aware of the trauma that we have experienced as a child, and acknowledge it, get the help that we need so that we can have more positive adults as relationships. A lot of us grew up without fathers. A lot of us never had father figures, especially a lot of women. And no, I'm sorry, I take that back. Men too. So I'm not even going to just say women. Men too. I just can't speak from the man perspective because I'm not a man. So I can't say how it personally, affects a man. I can make assumptions, but that's not even what this is. This is SNR Uncut, Unfiltered, and True. So I won't even divulge in that area. Don't worry, but I got a special guest coming on soon, and he'll be able to sprinkle the male perspective. But as far as a woman growing up with an absentee dad who spent a little time in and out of jail most of my life, and then even when he wasn't, unfortunately, my grandmother, she wouldn't let us see him a lot. I really didn't get a bond with my dad until I literally turned 18. And then when I left my grandma's house, I moved in with him. But like I said, I don't blame him for a lot of things neither. He's always tried what he could, and I love him for that. But just growing out without that dad, like you don't have the blueprint of how a man is supposed to treat you. Like, I love when I see, like, men taking their daughters out on dates, men opening up the door, men just sitting down how they're supposed to be treated by another man. And it plays a part. And I know that I sometimes feel like I'm a single mom, and we think that we mommy and daddy, but baby, we not. We are not. There are just some things that the presence of a father, of a man in that child's life, we will never be able to give. We will never be able to, no matter how hard we try, and it's just the truth. So as much as we want to, and I'm pretty sure a lot of us on Instagram on this live, we have grew up without fathers, and we feel like maybe it's not trauma. It is. We sometimes fill those voids with stuff that we don't need to fill it with. Like and sometimes honestly that's saying like you look for men who are like your father. You do. When I was growing up, I used to be attracted to like the dudes that was like in the streets, like my father. But on the flip side of it, I'm not even gonna downplay this. It was always the smart ones, because my dad is smart. He went to the Cleveland School of Arts. Like, he is smart. He's so smart. So it wasn't until, once again, more trauma happened that I was like, okay, let me step out this box. And I looked and I said, well, you know what? Out of the two character traits that I'm attracted to, I only need one, because that's the positive and that's the smart. In the streets, I've outgrown that. So, and it wasn't beneficial to me. It wasn't what I needed. So you have to identify it. You have to identify the trauma. You have to identify what is hindering you and what could possibly be affecting you making negative decisions. Especially now, y'all, with mental health being on the rise. Suicide rates are higher. I know people been overdosing even more, but I really feel like a part of the rise in drugs is the fact that people have traumas in life. They have loss of loved one to gun violence. They have been raped. They've been abused. Like, we do not know what people go through, and that's why I'm not quick to pass judgment. But the thing that we have to hold ourselves accountable to is, do we want better for ourselves? Do we want to change? Do we see ourselves being whole again? And that that's a choice that we as individuals have to make. Especially with, I just want to drop this in, trauma bonding. So trauma bonding is emotional bonds with an individual that arise from a reoccurring cynical pattern of abuse perpetuated by intimate reinforcement through rewards and punishment. There's a lot of people that are together because they're literally trauma bonded. They have a reoccurring pattern of already having their own individual trauma, bringing it together, and then once they're together, they're now creating their own, adding on to the trauma they already have, reoccurring trauma, over and over. And in their mind, they're saying, "Oh, this is love, this is it," and it's like, no, the trauma that you guys are creating together is what's forming that bond, and it's a unhealthy, emotionally unstable bond that is not good for any person. Any party involved, it's not good for. And so I think that, and then I want people like to realize, like, the definition of crazy is repeating the same thing over and over again and thinking you're going to get a different outcome. The first step has to be to realize what makes me keep making these decisions? What's in me that I'm not addressing or I'm ignoring, and I'm trying to block out and trying to forget. Like I said, I shared some of my stories, and mine, but I know some people who have been raped by family members. I know some people who have just went through some horrific things, and they have addressed it. They have got the help, and they are. If you look at them today, you would not believe what they've been through, and I love that for them. And now they're able to properly love and properly receive the love that they are deserving of. I don't never want anyone to think that the trauma that you've been through, which may have led you to make some unhealthy decisions and some unhealthy connections, makes you unworthy of having real love or having positive relationships or being whole and genuinely happy, because it does not. It does not. So I hope y'all enjoyed this episode. I definitely did. It has definitely showed some growth in me that I can look back and really applaud myself on. And I just want y'all to know, like, it did not take, it was this transformation or this decision or this glow of light did not happen overnight. It took, unfortunately, years and years of more trauma, more hurt, more pain for me to finally realize. And I really would say, this really happened after, I want to say, the situation with my son's dad. And I was, oh my God, it was so chaotic. I don't know if y'all know, but right around the pandemic time, my landlord had sold my townhouse. I wasn't working. So I always say, me and my kids is homeless. My sister and them say no, because I always had some place to go. And I did. And I'm thankful for that. But we were literally in my head homeless for a year. I was depressed, y'all. I was sitting in the house in the dark. Those was the worst year of my life, literally. And towards the end of the year, I started praying more. I started talking to God more. I started talking to a counselor. And then I started speaking things. I was like, you know what? It's fine. I said, because next year, I'm not even going into an apartment. I'm getting a house. I'm upgrading my car. I'm getting a career. And when I tell y'all, everything that I spoke out my mouth, God manifested the following year. Me and my kids moved into our house. I got a new car, upgraded my car. I started a career that not only was a career, but that career now pays for me to go to school to where I'm about to be graduating soon with my degree in paralegal so that I can go to law school to become a lawyer. So what I tell you, when you identify the trauma and when you really allow yourself to heal, to go through the phases of grief, to go through the phases of pain, and really desire to want to do better and not repeat the same mistakes because you want better. At the end of the day, I wanted better, but then I was like, I have to do better for my kids because they're watching. I don't want my trauma to now become their trauma. Y'all had to really catch that, because a lot of the times we don't even realize that the trauma that we have is our parents' trauma, and then their trauma is their parents' trauma. And so now we have generations of just trauma and abuse and neglect and mental. So when you have to really want to break that cycle for yourself, but also because our kids already gonna have their own trauma, and that's just unfortunate because of the world that we live in. And we can protect them a lot, but unfortunately, they're going to have their own trauma that they're going to have to, go through life and heal from. I don't want my trauma or the generations ahead of me trauma now being my kids' trauma. And I don't want my trauma in the relationships that I bring my children have to witness to become their ideal mode of what they desire as an adult in a relationship. So I hope that today was good. If y'all watch this and y'all are interested in maybe counseling, maybe some trauma therapy, domestic violence, I know that's really, a lot of women and men, it's just unreported what the men have went through, domestic violence, and that is trauma. rape. If you have any of those things that's going on, gun violence, if you lost a loved one to gun violence, that's a trauma that's a trauma that has to, I don't even know, that's a trauma that you have to learn how to deal with. I don't even think that's necessarily a trauma that can go away. And I'm not saying that trauma goes away, but you can learn how to cope with it to where it doesn't affect you negatively. So if you have any of those type of, you want to talk to someone, do not hesitate to DM me. Do not hesitate to drop a comment. If you want to keep it personal, private, of course, DM me. I will have no problem with helping you and getting the resources and the people that you need connected to. Because thankfully, in the field that I work in, I do know a lot of connections. Even if you feel like, hey, after watching this podcast, I see maybe my trauma has started affecting my kids, and maybe that could play a part in some of their behaviors or the things that they're doing. They're acting out in school. Let me know, because I also know of resources that will help children who have been exposed to trauma. And I will do it. It's completely confidential. You don't know I'm not like that. I just want to see us all be great. And I think that in order for us to all be great and really have better adult relationships, we first got to address this childhood trauma or just our trauma in whole. So I hope that y'all enjoyed this episode.